Okay, better? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I had my screen closed and I had everything muted. I can hear you
No
just fine.
problem. That was having some audio problems, I
No,
guess.
no, no. I was trying to send you the email. My computer was acting up, and it was
And
like glitching.
nobody could hear me. Okay, now my audio is working now. Yeah, I must. Okay, everybody, sorry about that. I think I accidentally turned off the audio. So for anybody who was patient enough to wait for me, I apologize for that. Still learning StreamYard. So no problem with you, Matt. I guess I just shut off the audio so nobody could hear what I was saying.
Good, good, good.
I was just a silent head. Anyways, welcome everybody. Now that you can hear me, uh, we want to talk tonight about Heavy Atomo and welcome our guest. Welcome, Matt. I'm glad you're on.
Yeah.
And talk to him about his project. Probably do yours first because we're still waiting for Rosario. He's having a lot of technical difficulties right now, and so that's going to kind of and difficulties might get in the way of live streaming.
Yeah, get the show on the road,
Exactly, exactly. But anyway, yeah, this is. We'll get into this now. So anyway, I wanted to ask you, Matt, because we've been talking a lot about working with you on one of your projects,
Yeah.
which pretty exciting. But before that, as you know, it was really cool hearing about those ideas. So I can't wait to work on the new one, which you have to change the name of, by the way, soon. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
But
Salty was like, no, keep it. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, how am I going to go toe to toe with like the most like speculated book coming out?
oh yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it is the most speculated book with. Okay, so yeah, it was a great better idea to change it.
Yep.
Before we get into that, I wanted to know more about like when did you like first get into writing, like your own stuff?
Hold on, give me 2 seconds. Do you mind? Okay, great. But my wife's the best. All right. She's showing me dog food that she made for our one dog who has stomach cancer. So it's like fresh.
Uh,
Yeah. I don't know why she chose now, but she chose it. But yeah. So man, I started. It's funny. I got into art because of writing, and then I got into writing because of art. It was like when I was a kid, when I was young, you'd watch cartoons, comic books, that kind of read comic books, watch cartoons. And, I guess it started, like at the earliest, you play with action figures and you read comic books, and then you start, shows end and you wish like something more could happen. And then you start imagining. And so for me, I started drawing because of that. I would like try to draw my own, like, I think it was Batman the Animated Series was probably that and Pokemon were probably the first two things. I remember I started trying to draw like my own little Batman stories from the cartoon back in the day. And then I remember the first time I realized I could draw good was when my sister was being born. I was in the hospital, and on my dad's side, because my mom and dad are split, he remarried. And the woman he remarried to, they had my half sister, whatever. She's my sister. I don't consider her. But I just remember being in the waiting room for God knows how many hours, and I'm just sitting there, and I had some like Pokemon cards, and I was like, I'm gonna try to draw an Onyx. I'm gonna try to draw an Alakazam, and then I was like, wow, like copying it. I'm like, wow, I actually can draw it. It looks just like the drawing. I was like, check that shit out, and then I just went from there. And after a while, you just start piecing together stuff in your head, and it's not good enough, and so I started trying to draw to bring like the ideas that I'm seeing to life. And then once I started doing that, that would inspire me to go further. And then the first time I really started doing stuff was probably high school.
Okay.
I got into AP Art Studio, and which whatever the big art class, and then at the same time I was in AP computer art, teaching you Photoshop like back in the day, like when it first started being a thing. And I just remember our school, like they mixed all the AP classes into one big showcase, and I happened to be in it with my friend Abbas, who now runs his own film studio. And we were like, let's share a booth, and we decided to like you had to make an invitation. And my friend Jimmy, who he's worked for Titmouse, he's a great animator. He's a big cartoonist animator guy. He worked for like Titmouse and lots of Adult Swim, that kind of stuff. he tried drawing invitations, like cartoon like versions of every person in our class, and
Oh,
it went so fucking badly. he it was like you know, girls, I don't know if that ever happened to you when you were like younger. You ever like I imagine you were probably skilled at art back in school, back in, you know, middle school, high school, that kind of thing. You ever had like a girl be like, "Oh, can you draw me?" Did you ever have that happen?
thankfully, no. Yeah, because
Oh
that
man.
would have. I would imagine that would go pretty bad. Because like whenever you do likenesses and stuff, even if they're those you're joking around, you got to be very careful on that, man. Because yeah, people want to be
Yeah,
portrayed the way they want to be portrayed.
yeah. So Jimmy was just like, I'm gonna draw cartoon versions of everyone, and he made like every girl have like Jessica Rabbit proportions, and every girl in that class, like as he's like giving them out to everyone in the school, because he did it for like 300 people, but he started with his idea to get them to everyone in the school was all the girls that were in that class. Well, everyone who was in that class would get one, and then every class that they were in would have the drawings of those people for their invitations. And every girl was like, "Jimmy, what the hell is this? What is?" And every girl started calling him pervert and shit. And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm not drawing anything. I'm gonna stick to something else." And so the boss and I put our head together, and yeah, I was a nerd, so at that point I was like doing Warhammer and painting miniatures and stuff, getting into
Oh,
airbrushing,
nice. Okay,
and like when
you're,
Halloween would
you're
roll,
a legit fan.
yeah, when Halloween would roll around, I'd be like doing my own prosthetics and stuff. So he's like, "Let's do a zombie movie. Let's film a zombie movie for our invitation." And so I literally made a whole chub bucket of blood and guts and intestinal tract, throat rip stuff. Probably shouldn't have been doing it for a high school, you know, show, but yeah, we wrote a whole little short story because this was around when like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead was like starting to pick up steam. And yeah, our invitation, I wrote that thing and it was the best. And our invitation, which we had playing at the art show on the televisions in our booth, was
Wow.
was literally two people driving in the car down the road. We didn't get any permits or nothing. We just snuck around the neighborhood and filmed it during misty
Dude,
days.
that's pretty cool.
And
So your creativity started early.
yeah, man. And so it's literally two guys from our school driving in the car, and they almost hit a person. And the one guy gets out, and the person's knocked down on the side of the road. The person being my friend and boss's little sister. She was like, I think 10 at the time. And again, I had her whole throat ripped and stuff. And so the guy goes over to her, and she sits up, and you know the head kind of slumps, and you just see like meat and stuff hanging from her like mottled throat. She leaps at him and starts ripping chunks out of his stomach. His intestines are flopping out, and he reaches out back over to the friend at the car, like, "Help me." And the guy's gone. He left him there, and he's driving, and it just cuts out. And it's like, "Get to the art studio now! Go to the show!" And that was that was the first time I wrote something, and I
Okay,
never stopped after that, man. Did it through
that's
college.
awesome. That was
Yeah,
a fun start, man. Like that because it had a legit like a story to accompany it.
yeah. Sorry if that was a long one, man.
Oh no! Now you said what? Now you we talked about that you worked at Riot Games also. You came to LA and
Yeah.
how did like all that like come about?
So ending high school, I became homeless. I had some serious shit happen in my life. And all I knew was what I wanted to do for college, which was the Joe Kubert Art School, which was like 10 minutes from my house, was no longer an option because, you know, you can't really get like, you know, like dorms and stuff. You can't get housing with that. So pretty much I was homeless through high school at the end, like my senior year, like the second half of it. And I hustled magic cards, and I realized I would just find a college that I could get through that would have housing that could take me. And one of the top ones in the world at the time is Full Sail in Orlando.
Oh yeah,
And
I heard about them.
so I went to Full Sail. I pretty much hustled magic cards, got Power Nine, went to all the like Grand Prix, and was playing draft and selling the cards. And I pretty much got the money to get myself to college. My grandmother, who lived in Florida at the time, was like, "If you can get down here, I'll get you to you know, I'll get you to like, you know, the conference. I'll help you, you know, get your student loan, and I'll help you get in there." So I got to college, and I was down there, and I came back up during like a tiny break. We didn't get many. And I guess I made a good impression because like 6 months later, a bunch of my friends went to the same school from high school, including my friend Clark. My friend Clark is a brilliant programmer from a Jewish Russian family. Um, and his dad, like when we used to go over and hang out at his house, his dad would like sit down with like programming and calculus books and like all sorts of crazy shit. And he would be like we'd get to go in his pool and he'd sit in the house and have to literally bust problems and stuff out. And so Clark ended up graduating from the same college I did. We both went, and we stayed in touch after that. And he ended up doing work for legal software, which then led to Riot Games happening because Google bought him. Like they bought his company, and he was like, I don't know if I want to continue working for Google. And he was like, I always wanted to work in gaming, but it's like this weird trade-off. Like you can go work for a game studio and get paid less and work more hours, but or you could do coding for other crap and do soulless work that's not enjoyably, interesting. And so he was like, yeah, I'm gonna like League of Legends was like just starting. Like they had nothing. And they
man, that was right.
Yeah, like they didn't even have. Sorry, you were saying?
Oh, that was right. It was a good time. I mean, that's League of Legends. You guys were there at the start.
Yeah. We it was like they didn't even have anything interesting at that point. Like they were just like it was blowing up, but it was before season 1, before any of that. When they used to, and so we both got into it, and because I did other work at that time, I wanted to create characters. That's my favorite stuff is designing. Like when a story comes to me, I see a character in my head. I see a scene, like, from the get-go. Like there's a moment in my head, I can already see it playing out. So, I'm just like, oh man, like the idea to just do that for a living, to like, just have characters pop in your head and make that work didn't happen. They ended up putting me in merchandising and marketing because they were expanding. They wanted to make money. They wanted to have swag and bullshit. And I'm good at, because of my grandfather was a really great advertiser. Like, he started the show promotion business, but before that, he was like a really successful advertiser. And he did advertising for an antique show once and then was like, I can do that. And then out advertised them and became the biggest in the country. Wow, so I like grew up like, at his house more than with my mother, like just over his shoulder. What you doing? Like he was the one who kind of was showing me how to get better at drawing when I was younger. And so even though I draw, I have a good marketing sense. And then you go to school and college, and Full Sail kind of teaches you how to market yourself and how to be an executive also. So, there's a lot.
That's a great curriculum. I hadn't heard of like those kinds of art, colleges, universities doing that. So that was pretty cool.
Well, you can just like Full Sail's whole thing. I wouldn't recommend it to people, if I'm being honest. It's, mind you, it has the most actor winning graduates of any school. It's cutting edge, but their thing is real world education. And then they have like a 90-something% dropout rate, and they try to get you to quit and fail and take their classes over and over and over and over again. And but if you're good at what you're doing, like the only students who graduate from it are like prodigies, like people, like most of the graduates are people already in industry who just came to the school to like learn more, but knew mostly how to do everything. And then there were stupid idiots like me who were like, I want to do this for a living. I need to do this for a living because I don't have a roof over my head. But yeah, so we got working at Riot Games and worked for them for a little bit, designing stuff. We would they used to have this newsletter, and we would like pitch stuff through it to see like how fans reacted to it. Those were good times, but then they started moving in another direction. And here, give me a sec. Give me 1 second. It's too much effort. I'll get it out another time. I'd show you like the maquette and the busts and stuff I did for them, which now they use, I think, for the Katarina sculpt model.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to check it out like when you can get it.
Yeah. I mean, I can. I'm just fucking lazy. I'll get it. One of these days, I'll get it. I just, my grandfather passed, and so you can kind of see like everything behind me down here. This is like the only quiet spot in my house right now. My mom just had surgery. The guy she's with just had surgery. We're watching them. So it's chaos.
You got to pack. You got a full house.
Yeah.
Full house before the blizzard.
Yeah. Well, so my mother, she's She should probably be retired with a nice fat amount of money, but she loves doing these like Kim Kardashian level bullshit trips. So she just went to Africa for like half a
Oh
month,
yeah, yeah, you told me that.
and
Yeah.
she's been like on safari and shit. Like, if you got a, I, I don't know if they're good now, like if they're good for YouTube, because like there's a lot of animals getting slaughtered and stuff in them. But I mean, like I watched a video of them where a hyena was under their truck and like 20 lions surrounded their safari vehicle, and they had to literally pull out and around this hyena so the lions could kill it, because otherwise the lions were going to kill them.
Oh my, yeah,
And you
that's
just, and then she's like filming it, and you're just watching them like draw and quarter this thing, and it's not clean, it's not instant. Like just rip this thing limb from limb
no.
every which way. Yeah, awful.
Just your description is enough for now. That's for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so worked for them for a while, and I mean, I worked at a lot of other places before them, but that was kind of the end of my creative journey. I like doing comics, working Comic Cons, trying to get books out there and get yourself known. I mean, you're an artist. I'm sure you know how hard it is to get people that are reliable, people that'll pay you, or if it's in the other way
Yeah.
around, people who that won't take your money and run. That stuff was biting at me, and then I'd work for these big companies, and like so I was like at Pixar when when Lasseter and Iger started to fight, and
Yeah.
like the death of creativity was starting, like around when Up was going on. So I got to be there when stuff was cool. I kind of got to go into these things like right as like the SJW,
When all the drama was going on, all the drama was happening.
like when it first started, before I realized it would be so like overtaking. Like even in school, man, we had like we were taking all these awesome classes. I just remember like we would you would have a lab and a lecture, and Full Sail was so intense you would have like a semester crushed down into a month, like, and so you would go in for that lab and it would teach you, sorry, that lecture, and it would teach you what you needed to use for that lab that day, and if you couldn't get it all done, you were fucked. like you would go 3-4 days straight without sleep every week till we graduated.
Dang.
And
No wonder you had like 90% like dropout rate.
yeah, and I just remember I'm in a 3D hard surface modeling class, and I'm like, which turned out to be my specialty, but working with NURBS and shit, and I'm like really far behind. Our final was like create something by the end of the class being over, with like insane complex curvature. So like I had to like design like one of those retarded Gillette Super Razor bullshit fusion, like 50 billion, looks like a fucking Michael Bay transformer. And every minute we got in the lab to be able to work on that was a godsend. I just remember we're about to go to that, and then they call us in. And they're like, "No, you have a mandatory like hearing class you have to go to. Everyone has to go to it." And it was about like hypersexualization of characters and like why it's bad. And I just remember like sitting there, like me and like 10 other people, and like all the like there's like maybe 3 girls in our class, and they're all like nodding their heads, like yeah. And then like they're showing like Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, and then they're showing Lara Croft, and they're like, "This is terrible and sexist and bullshit," and and this, it never happens to men; it only happens to women. I'm like, that guy literally has his tits out, with like a 20-pack, ripping people's heads off, both his biceps ripped. Like, what are you talking about? But they just like when I was in it, most of the students were like kind of that stupid and against it, except for a few, and the few that were for it like became really for it, and it stuck with them. And then when I started getting to industry, a lot of like the big people you see now were like just rising into power. So there was a lot of like great artistic people in the positions that were kind of falling off. And yeah, so Riot Games was kind of my last straw. I pretty much did marketing, merchandise stuff for them. And then the Clark tells me, hey, there's a character creation team, like for characters open. And I'm like, what? Why didn't I get an email? Why didn't anyone announce this?
Wow, that's a legit role, man. That's awesome. I like that role.
So I'm like, that's great. Like that's what I want. I'm like, get me out of here. I want out of here. I want into there. And but then I'm like, that's strange, because whenever hirings happen, the first thing that happens is they go out to the company members. See if you know someone, see if there's someone you trust to bring in. Especially back then, it was like very bro culture heavy. And so I'm like, that's strange. And I went to, go find the hiring guy for that. And what the hell is his name? Oh my God. Having a senior freaking moment. Anyway, I go to find him and he tells me that we have to do it over the computer, even though we work in the same office.
Oh man.
So
All
I think
the corporate rules are getting into place.
so. I'm like, okay, all right. I thought it was weird because Clark like had his meeting in person, and it was funny because Clark, they like when you have it, they tell you that they don't require you to be the total package. They tell you like they want you to be good at balancing like abilities and creating like balanced structure for a character, and then they also tell you they want you to be able to draw and create a look and a design for a character. And Clark didn't get the job because he couldn't draw, and I should have gotten the job because they took my design and used it for not one but two characters. And so I literally I send them my artwork. I pretty much at the time they didn't have any of the cool Void characters. They just had Cassidon, and it was before any of his reworks. He looked fucking awful. He was the worst looking character in the game, but he had this lore that was about like Eldritch Cthulhu Void shit, and there wasn't much to it. And so I was like, oh, that would be cool. Let's do a character based on like that. And so I kind of created this like I don't know, I was like into Prince of Persia a little bit. I like that aesthetic. So I was like, let's do it like an Arabian guy with like a hood and a scarf blowing in the wind and big baggy clothes, and he'll have like a void dagger, that whispers to him. And I designed his ability package off of pretty much when he uses abilities, you glimpse the void, and if like Cthulhu, you look onto it, you get mad. So the idea was when he used 3 of his abilities on you, and you got 3 marks, your character would stun in a fit of madness. And I was like, this is great. The dude ripped me apart over email, like tore me a new asshole. You'd think I was like the biggest amateur in the world. It was soul crushing. I thought I did good work, and that was that. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, here comes Malzahar and Kennen with my moveset under a different thing. It's not void, it's lightning stuff, but it still hit 3 things, stun them out. And then like a big AoE stun that does damage. And then Malzahar, who kind of almost beat for beat, almost had my look.
That's pretty bad. No wonder it was the last straw that you were there. That was pretty insulting.
Yeah, so that was I was just like, all right, fuck that. I was working on trying to, work out if they were going to do statues and miniatures, because I love the characters. Even back in the beginning, they had all the sex appeal with the girls and shit. So I was like, oh, that's going to sell if you can market that right. You'll get all the like weebs and shit into it. And so, that's like my favorite stuff to do from college was, build my 3D models, but I love doing it in person. So got some Sculpey, some other shit like that. Then pretty much we ran, oh my God, silicone pieces and ran it a couple different times, and I pretty much made one for Katarina, and I think they actually went with my original design even to this day. The statue you can buy. They changed cool. They changed a couple things on it, but like it's still pretty much the design.
That's awesome. You got like 3D stuff, and then you got the real life sculpting that you got to do both on. I only got to do the 3D stuff because I did a lot of 3D modeling. And I was working in video games too, but I didn't do I haven't ever done any of the real life stuff, like not even 3D printing.
Yeah, I made that a point of finding ways to make people let me do that. Like I got lucky there because they were, just starting out. So it was like, yeah, like if you guys, we can find a way to do this and do it well, maybe partner with a company that does it. All of a sudden you're selling T-shirts and then you're selling action, figures and change or make sure that's not on or not hearable because you're gonna cut through this.
Well, I'm gonna make sure you hear everything.
I mean, you are. My wife with the sass. But yeah, so God, it sucks even talking about it.
Well, on that, what I wanted to hit next was when did you want to start creating like your own books, like this? Because then I want to get into how you got into this current specific one, that I'm working on. But when did you decide, did you want to start creating your own books?
Oh man, like high school, I think I'd watch. I think it was what the hell's that anime? Outlaw Star was probably the first one. It was like, it was like Star Wars meets crack, and I was just like, all right. I remember sitting down making a little ash can, and then when New York Comic Con like first started taking off, I pretty much went to that, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm making comics. Like that's what I want to do. I started writing stuff, trying to pitch it to companies every Comic Con I could go to, and of course they're like, well, we don't hire you unless you already have a book. And then you go to the panels and they're like, let me tell you how I got started at Marvel. I already was famous and I already had a selling book, and then they hired me. And it's like, let me tell you how I got hired at DC. Well, I was done working with Marvel, and then they hired me at DC. I'm just like, what the fuck?
It's like, yeah, like where do you get on this hamster wheel? Like at what point? Yeah, because it makes it difficult. Like, what do you call it? I forgot the term. But anyways, it's difficult to jump in.
So I did that, and then I spent a lot of time at my friend's game and hobby shop, and he was a guy who used to work in film. He's like a film legend. His name is Joe Dietz. He like designed Darth Maul's lightsaber. He worked on Alien Resurrection. He worked on Guillermo del Toro's movies, and I would joke with him because his store was pretty cool. But like in the back behind the gaming area, like by the bathrooms, he had Arnold Schwarzenegger's head when he's wearing that mask in Total Recall, where he looks like a woman and then he takes it off. And I'm just like, why do you have that? Why is it over the bathroom? And he goes, oh yeah, from like back when we were like working on the movie, I stole it from the set. And I was like, wait, what? And so I started working with him, and he had some ventures. Like he kind of semi-retired because he had kids. He didn't want to travel anymore. He had ideas for like he wanted to create like sculpts of 3D like dragons and stuff. So he'd have me design them, and then I find out he has no lore or anything behind it. So I'm like, there's a billion dragon models out there. Like, how are we gonna? So I started writing that, and I realized I liked it. And then him and one of the other guys who was a co-owner was like a failed comics guy, and he started going to the cons with me, and I started writing with him, and we almost got picked up. And we almost got to Dark Horse. And I remember one of the oh my God, what the hell is that editor? There's a male editor and a female editor, and the male editor was really into us. And then like something came up, and the guy pulled them from like their booth. And this like redheaded female sat down, and she was like looking at my work. And the story I had was I thought it was cool, was the story about this loser, like think on the level of like Clerks, who was a DJ at a strip club, and he liked the like trafficked Russian stripper, and it was like run by the mob, and he like was too stupid to realize she was into money, and he has like the worst day of his life. And then Odin's eyeball from the World Tree drops into his cup, and he accidentally drinks it and becomes the modern day new vessel for Odin, and like mythology is reborn. And so I drew it out, inked it, like 15 pages for it, story, shoots, panels, everything. And the guy was into it, and then the girl looked at it, and she was thinking it was cool. And then she got to the scene where I had the double splash page of the stripper pretty much twerking and dropping, splitting legs on the pole, while the guy's like on the DJ board, and all the gangsters are looking at her, where you can really just for the first time see like how shitty he is compared to how cool she is, and or vice versa. And she goes, I don't get like why the fuck's her neck look like that? And I'm like, because she's looking over her shoulder, and she's like, what, did she break her neck? And I'm like, you get people all the time poking holes and fine. Again, you can always improve as an artist, but I can tell you for a fucking fact, on my grandmother's grave, I did not fuck up that anatomy. All right, this is before nerve damage. That woman is fucking retarded, and the more I talk to her, the more I realize she didn't know a goddamn thing about what she was talking about. And but I knew I wanted to write stories from that. That's what I wanted.
You started.
I backed off doing it, trying to do it for a living, And well, that's not true. I got into Hollywood, out of college. You like Full Sail, you make a lot of connections. Like James Cameron came in to like show shit from Avatar and the Avatar engine. Like you make a lot of connections. And my aunt, Allison Kohler, not my mother. Funny, my uncle married a woman with the same Allison was her name, which is my mom's name, and then she took my uncle's last name before they got divorced. But she used to be the lead casting agent for Disney way back when. So I pretty much was able through college and that to get out there, and she kind of gave me some leads. I did some craft service shit, and then started fielding scripts to anyone who would look and listen. And then I started getting a lot of like bullshit, like ghostwriter jobs, a lot of fix-em jobs. And then my mom, God, it's like such nepotism, but I swear, like, I didn't keep these jobs out of nepotism. I'm just lucky that like I got to meet these people. But my mom, her best friend from childhood, Stacy Osias, married this guy, and for the holidays, I've never really met Stacy, but my mom would always talk about her. She was like that one friend. Like my mom would have like horror stories about them partying, and we go over their house, and it's a goddamn mansion. And turns out she wanted me to be friends with her son because he was new to the area, but he was my age. So I was like, I'll show you all the bars, I'll show you all the people, I'll show you all the stuff. And Stacy, her husband, was the president of DreamWorks. So we're sitting, he took us out to sushi, and I'm like picking his brain. He's like, man, you're like really interested about all this stuff. And I'm like telling him about, because at that time I was doing the stuff at Pixar, and I was just kind of wrapping up my little bullshit for Up. And he's just like, wow, you have a lot of passion for this. You're really good at pitching stuff. Like I can tell. And he just goes, just weird response. You ever watch like Wolf of Wall Street where he's like, sell me this pen? He's like, I'm going to pitch you an idea, and you, oh my God, what am I getting? Like email swarmed? He's,
really happy right now.
Oh my God. Oh, just my wife being a lunatic. Love you. But yeah, he just starts asking me stuff like, I'm going to give you an idea. Like, pitch it to me. Pitch it. And so he gave me like a stupid movie. I think it wasn't a real movie. It was just like, if we were to make a adventure movie about Elmo, how would you sell it? And I just remember sitting there, and I was like, I took a minute, ate a dragon roll piece, and then I just started fucking going off the handle. And he goes, how would you like to work for me and do this like for me? And I thought that'd be cool. I thought like, oh man, I'm going to do movie pitches. And
yeah, that sounds like a great offer.
Yeah,
like the movie pitches.
And then instead it was writing dumb shit and going into rooms where he wanted other like writers and other creatives who had good ideas. And he wanted me to effectively pitch why his ideas were going to override them. And that was kind of what I did. And that really sucked and hurt my soul, going into something and being like, well, like the analytics say, like, if we put this in there, and I know they have a cohesive movie, but you're going to pretty much go in there and explain that they're going to need to make this work. And you're going to write a thing showing how it's going to be done. And so I did that, and it crushed my soul. And then I kind of got out of everything, right? Like I said, like trying to do stuff with them for a little bit was kind of the last straw. And I never stopped trying to write stuff for myself. I never stopped trying to write stories and stuff I wanted to make comics with. I never stopped doing that. But it stopped becoming like the main priority. And I just kind of sat on ideas. And little opportunities would come up. You meet people. And nothing would ever quite work out. And I'd start using them in role-playing games, like back when I met my wife and, her friends and my friends, we'd play like Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games like Legends of the Five Rings and all manner of freaking things. And so I'd start like putting my story ideas into like campaigns. And I just remember like everyone like stopped playing in their campaigns and wanted to play in mine after a while. And for a while, it was really good. For a while, I'd cook. I had this great house, and it was like me and my best friend Bobby, this guy Chris, and this tranny Gina. He started as Gary. He started as a gay guy, and then wasn't getting enough attention. And then he was like I'm now trans. My name's Gina. And he was like taller than I was, built like a fucking linebacker, hairy as fuck. And he would just wear like a denim skirt where his junk was practically popping out. And I'm pretty sure he might have been a pedophile. There was a lot of questionable shit near the end, and then I left. But there was weird instances where like I'd come home and there'd be like kids from high school, and this dude's like almost 40, and I'd just be like, "Why the hell are there like high school kids alone in your room with you?" And he'd be like, "Well, I used to like do band at the school they're at, and so I was showing them things and showing them how to color guard." And I'd just be like, "All right, that's cool, but like if you're gonna have like underage kids in the house, like you need to tell me. That's fucking weird." My wife thought it was weird too. We started dating around that time.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
But at that time, I'd been in culinary, and so I was literally cooking, and then I'd come home, and there'd be like 10 people in my house waiting to play role playing games, and we'd like pretty much go until I had to sleep. Some days I wouldn't sleep, and I'd just be running all these things, and I just the more and more I did it, the more I wanted to get back into comics, to really go that route, to make something happen. And then I realized all the comic books I liked reading started sucking. And then Comicsgate kind of, like, I think it was your boy Zach. I like there was Captain Cummings and other people, but I could never really stomach to watch them. Yellow Flash for a little bit, but that was only because of his original theme song where it was the Flash Gordon thing. That was kind of like, I didn't really enjoy his videos, but it would be like the Flash, and I'd just be like, oh yeah, that. Like it was like a like nostalgia member berry bullshit. But I'd watch your boy Zach, and I'd just be like, man, he's kind of speaking what I'm thinking. And then I started watching like the John Malin shit and the Ethan stuff. And then I watched him, they put out Jawbreakers. And the whole time I was like, I need to do that. I need to be a part of that. I have great stories. I have great stuff built up. And for whatever reason, man, even though I can talk on here now, like, I don't know if it was with you or someone else, but I process, due to the crazy shit in my life, I process emotion very weirdly. Like crazy shit is very easy to handle for me, and then like easy shit is anxiety inducing. And again, none of it's like soul crushing, but just the idea of like, oh, I can go make a business deal and go at a show with my mom, and there's NBC News, and that's fine. But then it's like, oh yeah, just like go into a chat room and like talk in the, go watch a video and talk in the chat. Like no, fuck that. And so I just never did. I just lurked forever and ever. And then, more and more stuff started happening. People became successful. People fall out. Stupid shit would happen. But I'd start to see like now, like there's more of us who were industry, been pro, been in the industry, been through that stuff. And it just kind of hit a weird place where like stuff started like in CG to like decline. And not like because people were putting out bad books but just like, people kept leaving, and I would like watch chat and I'd see fans, and you could feel away, but I have a different opinion. To me, like no one's drama is going to stop me from buying their book unless something truly awful happens. Like it sucks that Ethan's books have taken so long, but I could wait forever for his books, man. They're freaking fantastic. Yeah. I know like when he passes, like every single one of those books is going to be a goddamn treasure, and I fucking enjoy reading them. And as an artist, getting to look at the crap he pulls off is mind-boggling. I watch him draw it, and I'm still just like, how the fuck did you do that?
Yeah, it's very legit, especially when he started doing the live streams where he's drawing his pages and stuff. Like yeah. I'm not able to do that, like because I'm trying to think at the same time stream, and so it's a definite skill, man, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well,
and all the stuff that they're doing is really inspiring, especially the same, like it encourage you to start doing your books, all this crowdfunding stuff, and is been encouraging for me too, to it's finally able to give it the ability for people to produce their own stuff, especially after these guys have done it, and they continue to do it, and more people that are going out there. It's just very encouraging to put your work out there, to start doing it. That you can do it. That something could come of it.
Yeah, it's like I was watching stuff with the fans where I felt like they were being too I just knocked my computer a little bit with my elbows. Where I felt like fans are being too easily swayed. Like I get it, someone does something you don't like, but to me, I'm not reading these books because of. Long ago, I've realized every artist is a scumbag. To me, it's about how good the art is. There's something crazy in all of us that makes us, lack a few marbles somewhere along the way. I
Well,
think
yeah,
that's
but
like,
that's why we're all doing it that are involved. We love the comic book medium and what it's about, the storytelling, the artwork, everything, the coloring, the lettering, picking it
yeah,
up in a book form. It's just it's just awesome.
it's one of the last pieces of Americana. I think comic books and wrestling. That's about all that's left of our culture. So I'm like watching this, and I like it was right back when right when the Eric July shit was starting to go downhill. Like I remember everyone building up ISOM. I remember like the hype and CG was better than ever. It was like such a win for us that he was gonna put something big out. I remember talking to Ethan the first time. Like I'm like, I think I have a way for this to really like play off this. And I just remember him being like, yeah, we have a few people in the pool looking to maybe run a convention. And I didn't realize I was the person he was talking about when that happened. So I backed off. And then Eric and that shit fully imploded. And then, fandom split, however real fans they were or not. And I was like, no, this convention really should happen because it'll bring people together, but it also, I think, allow small artists to connect with fans that they might be having trouble to connect with. Not everyone has a great live stream. Not everyone pitches books well. And sometimes, people are just too set on who they already are set on to even attempt to try something. So I felt like having a physical convention where like maybe I have all these people's books, but now I'm seeing these people. Maybe I'm seeing how the person I like interacts with them. Maybe I see that they like their book and I missed that live stream or two back in the day, And so I think it's like a real good way for the fans to come back together if they're hating each other to maybe stop.
Oh no,
And
it's a totally good way, especially all the way you're setting it up. I think it's a great idea. Especially more of those shows. It's a shame that there is a lot of division, but yeah, these kinds of shows are definitely huge opportunities, especially the way you're going about it to get it all handled. Is a great opportunity for people coming together, people to check out the work, meet the creators. Just now and then have them all the creators get more involved again. That because shows are I love shows. Shows are very essential.
Yep.
Because you get to be there in person with everybody. Check out the artwork. Ask them the questions that you want. Get your stuff signed. I mean, just talk to them. Stand next to them. Even if it's a long line, all that stuff is just fun to do, and you can only do that at the show.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll, reinvigorate people, but also just be a great time to, say, hey, shit, we made all this cool crap and look at us, man. We got to enjoy
Exactly.
it like regular fucking people without being
Mhm.
ostracized because we just want well done comics that are creative. That's
Exactly. And you can see all of its stuff there too. And yeah, live streams are great. It's great to see them on live streams and your favorite creators on YouTube, but it's just, I don't know, it's just way better. It's just something, just of course, way better in person. You talk to them. You could ask them to check out your stuff. You're checking out their stuff in person. You talk to the other fans. Everyone's excited. It's great when you're around that kind of atmosphere because everything's buzzing, and then you're meeting some of your favorite people.
Yeah, but also getting on live stream and starting to talk to people. I no longer had an excuse to not actually reach out and start talking to some people to make some books happen. And for me, I'm an artist. I should be drawing my books, but with that nerve damage, it's like I can barely draw, man. You saw the little piece I was working on for Michael. That took me like all freaking night of sitting there, banging my head against the wall with that audit.
That's a shame too, man. Sorry,
that's like next to nothing. That's like part of a person and it's scribble. So.
But that's a horrible thing to happen, especially because you're good at it. I mean, you just posted a recent shot, and it was awesome. I liked it, and so, but not being able to do it, it's rough. But you have a ton. Thankfully, you got a ton of other skills. I mean, you're putting on this show. You've had all the skills from Hollywood. You're at Riot Games. You 3D sculpting, digital 3D. Plus, you're a writer now with coming up with these. I mean, what I think from what I've heard about it, some pretty awesome ideas. So you're a man of many talents.
The way I say it is, it's one talent, but I'm good at all aspects of it. Is story. That's what it is. If it has to do with a story, whether that's telling a story, drawing a story, writing a story, helping you visualize it or piece it or set dress it, I'm good at it. Not much else. That's not true.
No, man.
The show
like
promotion.
You're a promoter. You're putting on this show. You're running things. Auditor, taxes, and all those things. So yeah. I still stick to what I said before. Man of many talents. Yeah. So, but the cool thing about it is they're all able to work together because all the stuff that you can do feeds into each other. I mean, you're a writer and stuff. You're going to produce your book, and you get to go to these shows and show it to the fans. And they can ask questions about it and stuff. Aside from on here. Oh, and speaking of that, I want to ask you, when did you come up with, in this particular, I'm trying to go down to this particular part of the universe that we're working on together, Battlefront, the whole.
Undeniable. So a few years ago, so there used to be a big role-playing system called Mutants and Masterminds. And there's this guy, I think his name's Taliesin or something, but he used to make builds. It was a comic book role-playing game. So it's like D&D, but for comic books. And it was completely modular. So you could create any type of hero you could think of, and it was statted to make that happen. And I hated it because the game was this game of glass cannons. You didn't really have hit points. It was you're invincible until something hits you and you roll bad, and then you're fucked. And your character's dead or knocked out or whatever. But this one guy was addicted to it, and he kept making DC Comics character builds to the point where the company who made the game was this guy's better at statting things and knows our system better than us. And eventually they brought him onto the team, and he brokered a deal between DC Comics and them, and they built the DC handbook where he statted every DC Comics character in that thing. So they had Batman with the Batcave and the Batmobiles and everything and all his stats, and Superman and all that. We used to, back in the day, they used to run superhero games, but I had my fill of that system, and a new system came out that's much more cinematic. It plays much better. You have hit points, but it's much less rocks, paper, scissors-y in terms of you live or you die. And, you come up with stories and you do enough stuff with games and you run out of ideas. And we were sitting there and I had to be the DM, and I was just I don't have a superhero idea. And so I sat there and I'm I need to make a setting. I need to make a world. And I was guys, what level do you want? Do you want something street level? Do you want something big? Avengers threat level? Do you want Justice League cosmic horror level? What are we talking? And they're somewhere between Spider-Man and the Avengers. And I was okay, we're using are we going to be playing characters Batman, Superman type shit? Is the Justice League here? And they're no, it has to be your own world. And I was all right. And I sat down and I, went home and I just started writing shit. I'm actually, this world's pretty good. I put too much effort into it. I was actually, this one's going to the side. And when I had time here and there, I that game came and went. Who the fuck cares? but I kind of sat there and my wife always makes me draw characters and stuff for her. And so she would make me draw the characters for it. And then when I draw a character, I start thinking of ideas. And then once I start thinking of ideas, I have a scene in my head. And then, I'm all right, let me start piecing this together. And I built the world up. I built something that I thought was unique in superheroes. There's certain beats and certain stories I really love. Which is funny because I found in my experience, people who like superhero comics prefer one of two ways. You either prefer a deeply flawed hero who rises to the occasion, or you prefer a hero who's the pinnacle of what it means to be good.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that I tried working on a comic back in the day with one of my wife's friends, Brian, and that dude could draw like John Byrne. His shit looked exactly like it. He was super talented, big old black guy, way older than me at the time. He was in his 50s, and he should have had a career in comics, and he just couldn't be bothered to put in enough effort to actually go to a company. At the time I was talking to him was SJW Super Heaven. I'm Just go to a Comic-Con. They'll hire you. You're what they're looking for. You're a left-leaning black man. Just go. Like you'll be writing, like you'll be drawing X-Men, dude. Like I looked through, I went helped him move once, and he just had crates and crates and crates of bristleborn layouts, and I thought they were like maybe he bought like John Byrne stuff, and then I realized no, these were like made up fucking stories with his own characters. And so I'm like, Brian, like let's work on a book. Let's put this stuff together. And that's his name, by the way, Brian. You know, I had the money for him. I wanted him to work on stuff, and he just freaking like every step of the way was torture. I wanted to come up with a character that was I had an idea, like, you know, like we had the character the Geyer. I had like this, I guess you could call this like the proto Geyer when we were coming up with an idea for a character. And I wanted a story that was like you know, the Shadow in the comics, in the show, in the radio show. You don't really know who he is, and like they kind of allude to like he takes different people through time's identities. You know, it's like maybe he's Lamont Cranston, maybe he's this Inspector guy. Who the fuck knows? You know. So I was like, what if someone like we kind of did like a Batman Beyond, but like you have a guy who was a good person his whole life, and then he gave into crime once on the very last night that like the Shadow was like being a superhero. And like his whole life got fucking ruined for it. Like his friend was a criminal, and he convinced them, like working security, to look the other way. And then he took the fall for everything. And he sits in jail, and he's just like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to find that guy. Because it's the last night. It's the night that the hero can't cut it, right? So even though the Shadow wins the day and takes the people out, he sees his true face. He sees who he really is. The mask slips, some shit rips, and he sees it. So he knows who he is. He sits in jail, stewing, blaming the world for everything, all his misfortunes, even though it was his failure of character. And he gets out and he hunts the guy down, and the dude's an old man, and he's retired, and he owns an orphanage. And he's a hero, so he still gets the better of him. And then the guy sits him down, and he makes him look at his life, makes him look at what he is, and he pretty much takes the guy under his wing. And you go with this new character as he takes him to the places that have been lost to time where he once was. And you watch this dude go from like shitty street level crook to like rebuilding himself and building himself up into that like Bruce Wayne billionaire, building himself up as this thing, as this new version of this hero. Mind you, it wasn't the Shadow, but that's like the easiest example I could use. And this dude like flipped a shit on me. He threw the goddamn table we were talking at, like sitting across from each other. He cursed me out, threw it. He had like a full fucking meltdown. People from Detroit, I don't know. And he flipped out. He was like, no, heroes have to be, one, I don't like that this thing happens to him, that he just gets this power. That's bullshit. He goes, heroes have to choose their power. And his example was he doesn't like Spider-Man because a spider just happened to bite Peter Parker. Huh. Peter Parker didn't excel to become a hero. He was a dirtbag, and then he lost some shit, and heroes should be better. He goes, a hero should be better than us. He goes, a hero should be the guy who, like, he goes, if you got a superpower in real life, I don't believe that you'd be a good person with it. And he's like, that's not who a hero is. A hero should be somebody that is. And he like used Captain America as an example. He's Captain America, chose that. He put himself through the program. And, you know, there's merit in that, but I think every story has its own. And I think personally, there's something to be said about, especially in today's day and age, about pulling yourself out of the gutter and learning to be a better person.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that's like a big part of all movies, you know, great movies and life in general, you know, people, business owners, entrepreneurs. I mean, whatever you have, you're improving, becoming better, hopefully. That's the goal to, just be better, you know, later on.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I don't know. I really like that kind of origin story.
Yeah. By the way, what's your YouTube channel name? My wife wants to know.
It's, well, I think she just find me under Ben Herrera.
Change it. Just go on YouTube and type in Ben Herrera. You'll find him.
That'll be me.
She's like, I'll give him a view. She's like texting me.
Well, tell her thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
He says thanks for the view, Changer. So Yeah, so for me, like that stuff is like why I like characters, why I write these stories, how
Yeah,
they
because
come
I
to
mean
me.
that's a lot of heart. You said like it's through a lot of emotion and stuff. That's a lot of emotion. That's a lot of heart. That's a great way of becoming a hero, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, comics were an escape, man. I was going through some shit when I was young. Now, and like Spawn was my first comic book that I gave a shit about. Like my first comic book was Green Lantern with my aunt when I was like too young to know any better. But the first comic I cared about was Spawn issue 1, and I just went through like one of the worst Christmases of my fucking life. And so to me, like that shit was an escape. It helped me overcome shit. It helped me,
Hmm.
just kind of find my place and center in the chaos that was my mother trying to raise me. And so I want to write stories that do that. And so uh Undeniable kind of came to me because I was won that role playing game. I was trying to put those, I I started trying to come up with characters and NPCs for something, and then my own fucking ability just kind of took me off in the left field and ran with it. And I built a whole world and I built a whole scene to it. For me, I was like, the first thought was, and this happens a lot. I feel like when I write, is I look at like Hollywood and like the shit that doesn't work, the shit I hate. Um, and I have a story called Haunts. Kind of like the BPRD with Hellboy, but like on the Avengers scale and much cooler in terms of action. Not cooler because I could never draw like Mike Mignola, but but like where Hellboy is like behind the scenes, this would be like what if all the occult shit was out in the open, like Harry Potter, except it wasn't fucking hiding,
Uh,
and you're like some dude hooks up with a chick at a party and gets an STD, and next thing you know, he's turning into a fucking werewolf and like murdering people. And then like, how does law enforcement handle that? Because now he's rampaging in the middle of New York, like that kind of shit. Um, and like an idea for that came to me because I was watching, I think the second Underworld movie, Underworld, whatever, the second one, and we're like, you know, it starts and they're talking about all the secret orders and they're ancient mortal vampires, and then this one vampire just wakes up, goes into the forbidden thing. They have no countermeasures. There's like 5 people, kills them, takes the shit, goes on his evil scheme. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here. I'm done watching these movies where there's these ancient fucking orders and monsters and they guard the toughest shit and the most dangerous stuff, and it's like you can effectively walk in like it's a 7-Eleven and open a door and take it. It's so dumb. So I'm like, I want to write something that at least shit makes sense. And then so for this one, for Undeniable, I was like, I'm so sick of Marvel multiverse bullshit.
yeah.
I hated it in DC Comics. Um, Genuinely could not stand it. Like, I get why the first Crisis of Infinite Earths happened. You had too many things trying to fix the world, set things to a more reasonable level, to a more modern audience, whatever. But God, they just kept going with it. And I just felt like in some cases, instead of writing yourself out of a bad story, they would just be like, nah, new universe, new person, this guy. Like, just be like, dumb. But Marvel, I felt like did it so much worse because they always stayed away from that. And then film happened and they're just like, no, that's all we're about. So I'm just like, I want a universe that there is no multiverse. That'll be how my universe starts. A multiverse war.
Plus, everything's more self-contained that way. Everything's more self-contained. You can, concentrate on just this one awesome world and story, and instead of having to bring in,
Yep.
just all of a sudden, a unicorn pops out of Dimension Z or whatever.
That's kind of what the start of it is the Techno Lich comes into the world and he merges all the realms, all the universes, because he's trying to eat them all, because his universe is so far in the future that they've kind of actually run out of life and the abilities to sustain it. And they built necrotech where they can kind of go into other dimensions and like feed on them like Galactus to give their people life, to keep them alive even though their souls have perished. And he pretty much brings a device to the world that this comic takes place in and brings them all in. And the battle for that is how the universe starts, where they beat him. They're left with that choice of, we can either destroy all the other universes or merge all the universes. and so they decided to merge them all.
So you
And
did the anti multiverse story,
yeah, and
bring it
so
all into one.
now, the universe is all one thing. Before that, superheroes were just starting, but now you have super tech and geniuses and magic and all this shit from all these different what ifs that are now here and a part of life, and the world's kind of hit this like state of like being in a setting of like cyberpunk, where big megacorps, but they're dealing in technology and cryptids and magic, and just everything's fucking crazy. And then
That's
it's
that's a totally great way to start a whole new universe, because you're automatically like you get everybody's heroes from every other multiverse. Boom! Now it's your whole world populated automatically, so you could jump right into just telling different stories, different books, and different characters right away, and it all has a cohesion.
yeah, and if this ever has legs enough to last and keep going, and I can eventually hire other writers, no one can come to me and say I want a multiverse. I have a multiverse story. No, it's fucking done. No more. You can't write me just a good story. Like, just forget it.
Now for
But
art, now how that all that stuff is later. Where does okay, it wasn't say the terminal. It's not a terminal anymore.
yeah,
It's relentless. That's the current
yes,
one.
yes,
The current story, the one that we're working on now. Um, this is before that's the before story, like the
yeah,
precursor, right?
yep.
And so
So yeah,
that's going to kick everything off.
yeah. So in this world, like so many people's superhero books, you have some superhero order. Ours is called the Creed, and I had to look at it from the standpoint of how the hell would something like the Justice League actually operate in the real world? You know, I feel like you couldn't actually do that without being so terrifying to the world that they just back the fuck off you, or to have to get your hands a little dirty just to be able to be impunitive to just do good without the skeezy like politicians. And so there's a part of the creed that's like there's great heroes that genuinely try to do stuff, but then there's kind of like like if you read or watch The Boys, there's kind of this corporate feel to it that is there to kind of control the relationship with the government, so that the good guys can kind of do their thing, but also to make sure that heroes can remain a good thing to the general public and come off that way despite people's shortcomings, because not everyone cuts it as a hero. And then the Relentless is actually the first superhero team that led to the creation of the Creed. And they're not as good, they're not as clean. In fact, most of the Creed don't even realize one or two of the members even exist, because they like keep their minds blank. That they kind of, if they don't want people to know they exist, they don't exist.
They're okay. They're like the secret start,
Yeah.
the secret covert heroes.
And theirs starts at a much more street level. We got 3 heroes, give or take, and to me, I'm like, you have this Justice League-esque creed, but how do the first heroes in this world start and rise up? And I wanted something a little different, but also something that, like, if they weren't heroes, you could just kind of get behind as a movie, as a concept, as a book. And I always loved Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. I always hated that like they never reused Andrea Beaumont and anything else up until Tom King, who I think really fucking shit the bed with that one. I don't know why you'd bring her back, and instead of making her a cool femme fatale, make her like a weird mourning mother. Just stupid. But my idea, like, I love that idea of like, oh, that one that got away, but also like, no, she was like the crime boss's daughter. So I was like, I want a story of people who came from crime and rose to heroism. And so that's the basis of the Ruthless. The Relentless. Excuse me. I'm looking at. I have a tab open, and it's like fonts, and it was like I was trying to find because I was working that piece for Michael. I was trying to find the font for the movie Bloodsport for the cover I'm going to draw him. So you saw that piece I posted. I wanted to do the lettering on the top for Cool It, but I wanted to look like Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I wanted to make them like the girls that I'm using for it to look like the cover art for some of those like 80s like Street Fighter and like action movies type things. And so I found it. It's called Ruthless. That's the name of the font. but yeah, so I'm looking at my tabs, and for some reason I'm saying that. But yeah, so for that, it's the main character is Enzo Vitali of the Vitali crime family, and they're kind of like really good bookies and accountants. They import things for the crime families of the city, and he's like raised with morals, even though it's criminal morals, but he's still kind of raised with a code, and to be like much more of like the mafia and think like the Godfather, like what Michael Corleone is raised to be.
Yeah.
And
they're bad guys, but they still have principles.
Yeah, and it kind of starts with the idea, without giving away too much, of the Ventrones, which are like the crime family of all crime families. So you have them at the top because they're in with the megacorps. They're like the go-between. They kind of got the first into the city, and they're the ones who kind of do the illegal. Like, you ever watch RoboCop? You know, the first one where you know you have the OCP guy, and then you have I can't remember the villain's name, but the lead villain. You know, where he's like, I need these people killed, I need this shit robbed, I need money, I need this, and he just kind of goes and does it. You know, like the cops, this is illegal, but you can do it, and then I can just so happen to find itself in my warehouse. Like, that's the Ventrones for the megacorps. And so that's them, and all the other mobs kind of like, they kind of dictate what the other crime families are allowed to do, except the Vitalis, because they're so good with the money, they're effectively investing for the crime family so that they can almost become megacorps themselves. And
gotcha. Now, before we go any further, I wanted to say this is in the future, right? This whole story's a cyberpunk thing. It's supposed to be
like
science fiction.
Yeah. To me, like a superhero world, like, yeah, there's the world outside, but I want it to be unique. I want it to be interesting. I want it to be fun. I want it to be, even if someone's walking down the page, you know, down the street on the page, I want people to just look at it, you know, and just be like, damn, that's cool. I want to be there. You know, like, even if it sucks to be there, I want to be there, you know. Like, I think I told you, I want it to be somewhere between cyberpunk and like Art Deco, you know, like dripping in opulence, but like cool computerized opulence. And so, you know, even when these heroes are fighting these goons, you know, they got cybernetic implants. Like, nothing is just normal. Everything's interesting on that front. You know, maybe they bring some like mechanized robot kill dog with like a laser cannon on its back. Maybe, you know, they've enhanced themselves so much that like body parts open up and start doing stuff. Like, that's just crazy shit. But yeah, so anyway, Enzo's dad and the Ventrone crime boss kind of get into it, and the Ventrones go to kill his dad, kill his family, push them out. And Enzo at the time is riding high, and he has a girl that he kind of wishes was his girlfriend, and he has his best friend, and they're kind of at a school for like future leaders. They're like in like the best like college, high school, what have you, academy of like the city. And Enzo's in it because his family's loaded, they're corrupt, they got him in, but his best friend's in there because he's a genius and he's poor. And you know, the best friend is the guy who becomes the second hero. That's Miles Reeves, aka the Iron Saint. And Enzo decides to cut him into what they're doing. You know, he's like, dude, your dad, you are poor. Like, his dad runs an auto body shop. He's like, what if we funneled you money? You know, you run a chop shop for us on the side. You know, we need something gone. We funnel you parts. You get stuff. You no longer have to pay for it. You know, maybe we throw you some money on the take, and now you can build that race car you always wanted and go take it to the racetrack. You know, do the thing you always wanted to do because, yeah, I know you're a great racer. You know, you're the best. You're the best street racer. You know, now you can do it. You can do it for real. Like, and of course, Miles buys in, and his family's riding high for a little bit. Enzo has dating the class president of a girl, and he kind of loves her, but she's also like from a middle class family, and he wants the best for her. And the Ventrone boss kind of has a thing for younger girls. So for the good of his family, because his dad kind of has a talk with him, he actually kind of convinces her to date the guy, giving up this, close friend. And because of it, she's able to warn him what's about to happen, and she gets killed. And she like on the phone with him when it happens. And then Miles' family gets gunned down. His dad gets killed in defense. He hides. He's too scared to do anything, and his little brother gets shot and paralyzed. And Enzo's dad, because Enzo finds out, pretty much turns tail and runs. He packs everything, and they flee the country. And the guilt and horror of everything he did eats at Enzo. And like Bruce Wayne, he can't let that shit go. And he finds out, he stays in touch with Miles. And over the years, Enzo starts training and building, going overseas with the criminal empire, doing stuff. But it's all for a purpose. And so for the next 10 years, he works to communicate with Miles, as Miles can't forgive himself for getting his family murdered. And he builds the best version of himself, the version he wishes he could be. He, he's a sinner. He's broken. So he builds a saint. He builds something that would never, not stand up for the little guy, that would never not defend the innocent, defend the weak. And he builds himself a fucking tank of a fucking mech suit. And the two of them pretty much come back to the city with a vengeance, ready to go to war. You have the Iron Saint, which is kind of like the Punisher meets Iron Man. And then you have Enzo, who's kind of like the Shadow at that point. And they start taking out the crime families, and that's the plot. That's
nice.
what we're looking at.
That's a lot of great
that's
origin stories to make them want to get the story started.
Yeah.
And push it into the whole plot. When does it start? Like, I know you talked about their origin right now, but like, where is it? Does like the beginning of the story start out after he returns from overseas, or a little while after that, or
I think
when Enzo comes back to after his training, like to start after his training, or.
Like I said, I have 3 versions of this written, and so I've scrapped them all because I think I'm just going to start at the beginning. Even though I think the action will take a tiny bit longer, and that can hurt a comic. I think I can do it in a way, or maybe you can do it in a way. I can write it in a way where you can panel it in a way where it maybe feels like reading a Sin City book. Like Frank Miller in Sin City is usually pretty good with like making even mundane shit seem impactful and interesting. Like how many Sin City books have like Dwight like walking down the street, or Marv like in the middle of the snow, like talking about some shit he's about to do, and it looks cool, and you're just like, wow. So I think I can do it in a way where the heart, and I imagine actually it'll probably only be a few pages before they all start getting gunned down and murder happens. So I don't think the reader will have to wait too long for the action to hit, but it's going to have to start with probably him at what I've started with him at the probably like graduation, like like the equivalent of like your prom, homecoming, whatever, like right after homecoming celebration, and then into the getting everyone murdered and just the horror of it, and into the the journey of how he becomes a freaking psychic powerhouse of a gun wielder and martial artist, and how his friend pretty much goes on to become a walking metal nightmare to criminals. And
okay, so you got a little bit of the origin right at the beginning, and then you jump into the rest of the story from there. And after his and then later on the Geyer comes in.
Yeah, that's who he becomes. That's Enzo. That he pretty much and I always kind of liked that the Shadow was effectively evil. Like he was evil for good. Like it's weird because normally I like my heroes to be good guys, but I really like the idea of just someone who was able to turn that around and find a way to weaponize it for good. And so my version of him has him gaining his abilities and powers from a djinn. In a cyberpunk
Yeah,
world
yeah,
of crazy shit, he finds something lost to time and pretty much like so many others that it's eaten the soul of and screwed over with its wishes. Um, he has a weird wish, weird enough that it would not necessarily even go on to trick him. It would just be intrigued because he's not like, I want all my enemies dead. He's like, I want the power, the knowledge, the know-how, to strike at evil where it lives, and that gains this devil, this demon of the sands, an Ifrit. It piques its interest enough, and so it agrees to help him in exchange for one favor to be paid back down the road. And it teaches him and unlocks the power of his mind. It teaches him the profane arts of the lost world, and he pretty much comes back. The way him and Iron Saint work together is the Iron Saint wages a war on crime, and he comes back kind of like the Green Hornet, where he comes back as Enzo Vitale, ready to bring back his family's criminal empire. So he can get close to the criminals, infiltrate their circles, know them, tell the Iron Saint where to strike. And as he's wreaking havoc, he can don who he really is and find their leaders and pry the information from their cold, dead minds. Or, living, unwilling, horrified minds, whatever.
One of them, any of them, as long as they give up the info.
Yeah.
Now, was there supposed to be a third member of the group, or was it just because I think you talked about?
Yeah. So the third one's the Morrigan, and
that's right. Yeah.
That would be his friend who he convinced to go sleep with and date the Ventrone crime boss. He throws her off the roof and she dies. And I'm still playing with the idea if I want her to be like some twisted cyberpunk version of it, or if I want her to be fully mystical. Both of those kind of intrigue me, but the idea being that her coming to America originally and why her family's not super, wealthy is that her mother smuggled her out of Ireland from a cult. And that cult believed that her bloodline, even in this day and age, dated all the way back to the Celtic goddess of death herself, the Morrigan. And they wanted to use her for some type of sacrifice or something to wield power over this ancient force. Well, that didn't work for them. But when that crime boss threw her off the fucking roof, she comes back from the dead. Awakened, the reincarnation of the Morrigan, the harbinger of death, pulling the ichor, the black ichor from, the maggots of themselves. And she also is pretty much lets the world forget about her and has slowly been picking off people and trying to work her way into going after Ventrone. But her dilemma is that the goddess has a will itself. So even though she'd like to just walk in there with the power of a god and his megacorp and screw his life over and destroy him, sometimes that thing just says, no, there's worse sinners out there closer, and you got to deal with that. And it's all you can think about, and it's all that you dream about. And so she's kind of this like a whirling dervish of problems that's weaving its way throughout the story. And eventually, the well-laid plans of the two heroes intersect with her chaos, and eventually they're going to have to come to some sort of conflict or terms if they want to eventually bridge the gap and take down the criminal element that has destroyed their lives in the city.
Okay, so they all have different motivations, so they end up coming together later because they pretty much have the same like thing they want to do.
Yep.
Get rid of all the bad guys.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, again, they all lost it in some way or another, pretty much selling out your morals to, to effectively gold dig your way into someone of power that you don't love for the wrong reasons and then getting yourself killed over it, that does some stuff to you. Or at least I think it should. But yeah, and then I'm just playing back and forth with it, whether I wanted her to like die and maybe become like some twisted experiment of some megacorp or something. Like like there's always cyberpunk stories where like a Ghost in the Shell or something, where it's like, oh, like this horrible thing happened to you, and now we're gonna put you in this program and make you something that's beyond human. Or if I just wanted it to actually just be this entity, like or maybe she dies and that entity twists the cybernetics around her to fix her and kind of cyborg her up into some like twisted entity where she can pretty much wield all the technology around her as if it was just hers. There's
All
there's
kinds
two
of cool
there's
stuff
two
you can do.
versions of it, and I'm like flipping back and forth because it doesn't really affect the story so much as the visual.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
just to make everything be cool,
yeah,
everything be cool, and like work in this, a cyberpunk world, which again is a great world. Like I said before, I told you this is, to me anyway, it's like an original story, because you don't really have like superheroes in a cyberpunk world. Normally they're two pretty different things. So this has, it's like a really like rock star hodgepodge of different genres working together.
yeah. I think so. I don't know. I think genuinely, like when I read the stuff that I write, I think it works pretty well. I try to give it to anyone and everyone who will read my stuff. Um, and normally there's not. I've yet to really have someone to say, I don't get this. It doesn't work. The only time I have that happen is
That
when
one guy
someone's
that
no, when someone says it immediately, like they haven't finished reading like the rest of the scene,
okay.
they're like, I don't get who this guy is, and then like the very next like two sentences are like, come on, man, like finish the chapter, then you'll see. But yeah, no, I've given it to like one of my, I've said it before, like one of my wife's friends kind of hates my guts. He likes all the same shit I like. He's a nerd like the rest of us. But if I suggest something, he's instantly against it. And I've tested it enough times that we'll go to like meet up, go to, out to eat, go to a place, and we'll start talking about pop culture shit. And I'll not suggest something to him, but I'll kind of like mention stuff around it enough. And every time I do that, he finds the thing on his own and then loves it. And if I'm like, this is the best thing on television, you need to watch this, or oh my god, did you see that video game or that book, or no, I hate it. And then, but he read Undeniable, and like I said, I caught him crying at a part of it, which I want. It was the part I read you, where Battlefront freaking saves his wife and family, and finally like hits his role once again and finds his motivation at the core of what he fights for. But that, the first scene I ever thought of for it. But yeah, I was
Well,
like,
at least
yeah,
it's getting like you wanted to. You wanted people to hit them emotionally. So apparently it's working. And it'll be cool to get this stuff on more on paper, on in the comic book.
Yeah.
And get the people's reaction. Now, is this going to be just a one shot? You want this to be like a one shot?
Nah, I
like
got
48-page story, or
no, I got a bunch of adventures for it. This like I want it to eventually go to where the other book happens. Like I have it starts with the crime families, and then they discover something that is kind of the beginning of when the multiverse shit happens, but they discover that necrotech and that first thing, and that leads to like the cosmic shit first starting, which then leads to like bigger, crazier heroes, which then leads to other characters first getting their powers and becoming a thing. Like one of the Vanaheim from Undeniable starts like this book has her as a Torsivia whore before she ever becomes a great hero, like before she has anything, when she's just a victim of that crime family. So this has like her backstory into it. It has a lot of pieces. Iron Saint's brother Tommy, he sorry, did I say is it Tommy? Is that what yeah, I'm having a senior moment. Oh, where are you? Sorry, Wes. Excuse me. I don't know why the hell I said Tommy. he's crippled now, but it sets the tone for how he gets like a cosmic bio weapon armor embedded into him before he becomes a hero down the road for Undeniable, before he becomes like a government agent. So it all starts here and it builds during different arcs and stuff. And
Okay. So this is the start of the universe here with our book.
Yeah.
The Relentless.
Yes.
All right. And that's what we're just started. We just started like actually haven't even started. So it's just kind of happening right now. So you just sent me the email of the story Bible to get going. So yeah,
like
everybody's getting all the information like brand new right now if you're watching.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying, I was talking with David Williams about doing Undeniable, but I don't know. He said to give him time, because again, I could meet his, the issues he's going through. I could beat that. I understand his trepidation, but I just don't think he has it. He needs commissions. He needs, cover art, stuff like that. And I'll definitely use him for that, but I don't think he's up to it. At least he doesn't seem to be. So I was actually going to say like, hey, it's up to you, because I have Undeniable fully written, fully scripted. You've seen I have concept art for it, all kinds of stuff already. And then slightly less work, I think maybe on your end, but also there's this one, and I know you liked this story a little more than
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of difficult to pick because the whole world is pretty cool, but this story.
Hold on, let's see if I can get that to actually show up. So that's like stuff from Undeniable right there. That's
oh, nice.
Killer Whale and Azurane without her helmet on.
Oh, I like their names too. Yeah. And I'm checking. That's pretty cool. Killer Whale and Azurine.
Yeah, Azure, Azure, and Killer Whale, because I was going to name him Orca, but I felt that was a little too feminine. But the Orca is the apex predator of planet Earth. There's no animal higher on any food chain than it. So that's what I wanted.
Killer Whale sounds much more menacing than Orca. Although Orca does still sound pretty tough. So
yeah, he has like a ship, and that's called the Orca. So
okay.
So I was like, I'll just if I don't like it with him, I'll use it for one of his things. But I kind of liked it because that character is so like his story is much more of a person who's trying to live with the volume turned down, and the only way that he gets emotional and feels better and feels alive is through horrible acts of violence. But he doesn't like that. It's just what he's become. Like I've described him before in other things. He's a kinetic energy vampire. So the more violence, the more stuff that happens, the stronger, faster, better he gets. And it's kind of like a high to him.
And almost like Sebastian Shaw from
a little less powerful. Like he doesn't become invulnerable. He just like kind of gets Wolverine's healing factor, and he's like leaping and Spider-Man level swinging and shots, and like Daredevil level senses, that kind of thing. But he definitely doesn't become like I'm just gonna step out here and like put my foot down and there goes the block. But his technology, he's like a nerd. He's kind of like, what if Peter Parker became Deathstroke?
Oh, I gotcha. And this is all in like later after the Relentless.
Yeah, so I mean he's around when the Relentless are around, but he's not a good guy. He's not trying to change his life yet. He is probably in a living hell, being experimented on and tortured endlessly. He's a character who his dad worked for the military as a scientist, and he was like a city boy nerd who probably would have ended up like in some great college, wasn't good with girls, kind of like a nobody who's like going to make the next cool tech thing, ahead of his time, certified genius. And then his family gets abducted by like an assassin organization, like think like the League of Shadows, but just on crack. And they pretty much want to use his father for like bioweapons, and the only way they get to do that is to keep him around and torture.
Yeesh.
The
Yeah, that's not
torture.
going to help you become like some kind of like
Yeah.
hero dude or somebody
Yeah.
that wants revenge. Then I don't know what will.
Yeah, so they torture them. His real name is Maxwell Margrave. So they torture him, and the only way that they can ensure that the father will make good augments and chemicals and bionics and stuff is by making him use it on his own son. So
Yeah.
at first he's just a guinea pig in a test tube, and he dies 13 times, and somehow for some reason or another he just keeps opening his eyes. There's just something in him that won't quit. His heart stops and then he keeps going. And they're testing shit that they don't know on him. And eventually they have what they need from the dad and they kill him. So his dad dies and he's just a test thing. But he never actually gives up. Like even in there, his mind's still playing chess with these people and being tortured and going through all this stuff. He like convinces them that he's like been brainwashed by them and gone through their cult shit, and so they're using him as like punching bags for their warriors. But he's memorizing all their combat techniques, and when they have him locked up, he's like practicing them, getting stronger, getting better. But eventually, the shit that they do to him fucks him up so much that his body kind of starts eating itself. Like it accelerates it. Like again, it can photosynthesize violence and kinetic motion. So just the longer he's around, the stronger and crazier he gets. And eventually he starts spitting up blood and his body starts eating itself because there's only so much it can do. And he actually ends up like sneaking out and creating a formula to like stop that from happening to himself. And eventually when they go to do their shit, he kills them all to the man. He kills every last one of them and becomes a legend in the
Dang, man, this is
villain
like
world.
a hardcore origin story.
That's
man.
gonna be a one shot. That I
Okay.
plan to have that book as maybe a supplemental or something where it's might not even have words other than a couple like just him and his thought process. Like probably in the vein of something like 300, where it's like where the narration of what the Spartans are and like what they do, because that's kind of that story. It's kind of like Leonidas being thrown to the wolves, but it's this fucking kid, and he whoops everyone's ass and gets out. And now, all these years later, he just wants to figure out who the fuck he is and what life was because he never
So
got
basically,
to live.
all this stuff you're setting up a whole universe because you're all these heroes are either going to be part of one book or split off into their own. So you want to have a whole world.
Yeah, for me, it's like it's almost impossible not to, and I don't sit out with that idea. I'm not like I'm going to build a universe. I just it's hard to stop. I never want a character to just seem like one dimensional, and I get it. In a book, they like that shit might never come up. It might be completely tertiary, but I never want a character to just feel like when you read a Marvel comic and you're just like, who the fuck was that guy? And then 5 years later, they finally do something cool and they get killed. And then you're like, wait. I've been reading this book for like 10 years and that dude's done jack shit and now he's dead. But that, like, what the fuck? Like, I never want that to happen. I always want every character, if I could find a way to get people to buy that book, if that's a story where like I want something to be there. I want to be able to know how they'll react to the story pieces I'm putting together. Like why is this person a bitch? Why would they hate that person? What
Well,
led
yeah,
to
and
that?
that comes with fully developing your characters out. So when you do that, the story can just kind of write itself what they're doing because you automatically know what they're going to be doing and how they're going to react to stuff, and then their whole personality is able to come out on the page in the book.
Yeah,
I understand. Which then, because then you know your characters, you know your story. It seems like that's what you've got. All of these things. I mean, from all the stuff you're talking about, you gave all of these things a ton of thought. With their background and motivation. And
yeah. I think you start creating the story and you have to wonder like why a person is like why they are. And for me,
yeah,
like my childhood, my life, psychology and like knowing what the hell people are like and what they do and why they do something, why you do something, matters. It's always been a appealing part of me, and I felt like even when I was in college, when we had our psychology courses, I had a professor, and he was like one of the founding people for profiling. He was like one of the coolest professors I ever have. They gave us the class to help us write characters, but he came in like halfway through. It's like one of the only 2 month classes we had, and his shit was like eye opening. Like all the stuff we'd learn about, like we were pretty much writing a movie script. You could write a video game or a comic book or a movie script, but he'd put you in groups, and like you had to write like a 300-page script by the time the class was done. And you would just like every class, he'd bust out some new facet of psychology, and every person had to make a character. You had to make a core of what the story is, and then you'd switch character writing, and then add pieces of psychology to them, and you'd keep doing it until you had a 300-page script. And ours won an award. But from that moment, I was like, I loved it. I was like, man, I should have gone to criminology or psychology. Like, but no, that shit matters, man. It matters. It matters.
Oh yeah, it all matters and stuff, because again, that's what drives the whole story, and having characters and who they are, because that drives all of our story in life. Matters what we've done, what we've been through, how it affected us, and all those things affect all the decisions that we make. And of course we can choose which path, which way we go, what we do, but yeah, all of it affects everything we do in our life. So having that kind of thing is awesome, because then it makes the story way more fleshed out. Gives it weight.
Yeah,
and keeps people want to be reading because they can understand why these characters are doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, also it's like, like just to talk like the comics gate, there's so many people I talk to where, they have an idea or a comic book, and that's kind of like, I think might be where my niche is actually, besides making books. But, once I get this show stuff to the next phase and I can relax a little bit and, focus back on the books and the channel and the YouTube stuff, and get Comicsgate Kitchen open, I hear people's like pitches and their ideas for books, or I watch live streams where they're like pitching their book, and sometimes I scratch my head. I'm just like, I feel like there's not enough there. Like, I don't mean like me where I just babbled and talked your ear off for an hour. I mean like they'll do a pitch and they'll be like, I really wanted to make I don't know, this Power Ranger comic, and it's, I really love Power Rangers. So that's great. But why does this Power Ranger comic need to be made? Like, what makes yours different? What's the story that's in your head that needed to come out? And so I don't hear it enough. I don't see it enough. And it could be there. They could have that knowledge and it could blow my socks off. But a lot of times I feel like, especially with the people who come out with shit and then blame big people for, why they failed, almost every time it's some shit like that where there's just not enough thought behind it. And you don't need to be like me where you write novels. You don't need to do that. You don't need to freaking, write a 157-page script for some shit that I'll probably end up breaking down into multiple books. But there needs to, you can tell, like, if you talk to Ethan about Cyberfrog, or even like when John Malin was first doing Godlike, like the first Godlike, and he was talking about it. He talks about the things he likes from the bullshit, like the cartoons, like Thundar and He-Man and Heavy Metal. But then, he talks about, like, why that story needs to be told and why he can do it in a way that would make you want to buy that compared to all the ones that have already been made. And, I feel like writers need to ask themselves that. Like, I know, like, you think your book's good and you want your book to be good, but you need to sit there and genuinely, if you can't do that, you can't make me give a shit and want your book more than you or think I want your book more than you. Like, we're reassess, because comics ain't easy, man.
No. And it's a process too, for people to get to that point. But yeah, all those things matter because you can, you could feel it in the story. You can feel it before when you have somebody first describe it to you, and then when you start reading it, to be able to have all the stuff that comes out, it makes a difference. It makes a big difference in how it's portrayed and how people accept it. Because of those things. Why they're doing those things and how it grabs the reader. Well, actually, how it grabs the creator.
Yeah.
That's why I said earlier when I was talking to you before. What I appreciate is your passion about your stories. It's like not only do you have um, the knowledge, you obviously you could tell you're a fan. You're a fan of where you're drawing from, all these different things that you like and what you don't like, but you have reasons for liking and don't liking those things, and then you have a reason for how you build your stories, and then you're passionate about it, like you're excited about these stories being told, because they just keep like running off, your mind.
Well, it's like like you go to high school, you go to college, whatever age you get into trying to get into the comics media game, and you think you're just gonna have awesome times writing cool stories, even if they're other people's stories. You're gonna have a great time. You're gonna get to use your imagination, and then it's like, nah, not really. You're pretty much gonna have the joy smacked out of your soul until you learn not to care, and then you're gonna write the worst shit of your life, and that's gonna maybe get out there, and it's gonna be chopped up by 3 other people. And now for me, I'm like, no, I'm gonna get to tell a story. I'm gonna get to tell the story. I'm gonna get to tell these stories I've been sitting on. This bullshit that I can't turn off in my head, where I'm sitting there and I'm like doing an audit, or waiting for a beer festival to close up. I'm waiting, I'm there, my mom's like packing up the last van, and I'm like sitting at the table like just doodling, and I'm like, no, it's got to be this thing. That's what I'm excited for. That's the beauty of comics, Kate, to me. It's I mean, like indie comics in general, but just the idea that I know there's an audience out there that might want to give this stuff a shot. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's why we could do stuff like this, these live streams and stuff, because of the audience out there that gets to check these things out and get a response from them, and to be able to share something they'd want to give it a shot, and then get their feedback like this. It's all great. I was thinking while we're doing this, I'm thinking right now, man, I wonder what people are going to get from this and get from this live stream, because again, you're sharing your ideas, you're sharing your stories, and it's the first part of it, the first part of all that.
Yeah, I guess my real question to you is like, do you want the one that's already done so you can get to drawing quicker, or are you like definitely sold on the Relentless over Undeniable?
Man, it's tough because I like the whole universe. When you first, oh man, it's a tough question. Especially now that if Dave's not going to work on, I got to talk to Dave, but I guess he's not going to work on Battlefront.
Yeah, he said to give him a Undeniable. Battlefront's the hero, one of the heroes in it. Undeniable is the book.
I keep thinking about that name because I love. Okay, yes, I do like that name. So
you want to know how I was trying to come up with that name, man? That name was probably the biggest bitch of every name and every character I came up with in that book, and I have a freaking lot because that's like.
Wait, I think you told it to me. You came out with something where you were trying to find out every name, do a search that wasn't used, right?
It was like that's what I do for every character, but it was like I was like, okay, this dude's got to be like an American hero. He's got to capture, he's got to be a badass. So it's not like I want to be like I'm Captain America. Like he needs not that Captain America's not a badass, but he's a badass despite the retarded name and costume. Actually his costume's pretty timeless, but you at the point without the right artist it can look pretty tacky. But it's like I'm like he needs to be something that like makes like he's a badass, and when he shows up and you hear that name like you're getting your ass whooped, but also he needs to be something inspiring because at one point he was the coolest superhero in the world in this setting. Every kid loved him. He was like the fucking Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania of superheroes. At one point in the story, so I was like, I'm gonna try like military type things, and I was like, something tough because he's like a powerhouse. And then I was like, all right, let's look at. I think my first one was Diesel was like the first name I had, and then because I had a joke about like he had a sponsor from a car company. One of the characters is like, yeah, you can get built Ford tough, bro. And so I was like, that'll be funny. And then I was like, nope, that's taken. And I was like, all right,
Vin Diesel. Diesel. That's what they're thinking about too.
So then I was like, all right, let's try something more metal. I'm like, oh, like maybe there's like military ones, and I was like, Barrage taken. Okay, Barge taken. Like I think Marvel had like one arc. Like these characters have like barely ever been used, and there's like every military freaking armament name you could think of. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. And then I was like looking at all these old VHSs my grandfather had that we like were unpacking. And I see like Iron Eagle sitting up here. And I'm like, Iron Eagle. Oh, that'd be a cool name. And I looked it up. I'm like, technically, they don't have any copyright that says I can't put it in a comic book. I looked it up. So I was like, I was going to go with Iron Eagle. And then I was like, maybe. And then I was like, oh, maybe there's something to do with like munitions, you know? I was with Caliber, nah. Like I just kept going through stuff, and then I was like, oh shit, Battlefront. Yeah, that sounds brutal. It also fits for what happens to him as the story progresses, you know, where he falls from grace, and you know he's going through it in that story, you know, like so I'm like it works so well. So I was like, that's
And
the
this
one.
is the one. Yeah, this is the one where it's already written where it has to do with the villain. Also, there's a villain in it, and
Yeah,
the private investigator.
yeah. So Undeniable takes place, starts the setup for the universe, which is all the shit. It starts at that with them, all the heroes and all the villains uniting with the world to take on the Techno Lich and end his forces once and for all. And at the end of it, they're pretty much left with the horrifying decision of destroy everything but their universe and mix all the universes. They mix them, and then it jumps 5 years later. And when it first starts, Battlefront is at the height of him being a badass, and him and Killer Whale end up teaming up to take down the big bad. There's like 4 heroes in the world left standing, and those two coming together freaking save the day and whoop that thing's ass. And then it cuts 5 years later, and he's divorced. His wife took the kids. He's lost his money, been kicked out of the Hero League, and his best friend is the super villain, you know, Mega Assassin, who's giving that all up and just trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what the hell to do with his life. And they have a private eye place next to the one of probably my favorite character in the whole anything. He's called Vander Banks, and he's the greatest living henchman. He's the villain who's henched for every villain and not died. This would be the guy who somehow worked for like the Joker and Two-Face and like all those people and somehow never got killed by any of these psychopaths. And he like kind of retired from the supervillain game and opened like a metahuman bar. Like down and out heroes go there, villains looking for work that aren't shit go there, and pretty much Killer Whale rents his office from them, so they're like always hanging out in his bar, and their PI place is above it. And my dog's whining. I have to put her out soon. And I was just whining at her. And yeah, so it's them. They pretty much, you know, pick up the pieces of their lives together by becoming a detective agency specifically dealing in cases for superheroes and supervillains, because they can pretty much have the cred to not, you know, blow their identities in their cover. They can effectively be like, you know, they're not going to report to the police about, you know, the fact they had to take a case from a supervillain. You know, if like, I don't know, like Batman came to them because, you know, he thinks Robin's cucking him or something, like, you know, they're not going to out that they're working for him. You know, that's what's happening. You know, that's the type of shit they deal with. And the story is that Azur Rain, who is like, she works for like the Opaque Syndicate, which is like the big supervillain organization, like this Illuminati of evil that does horrible shit throughout the world. She is an agent for hire for them. She's like espionage for hire, and she does that because she was an experiment. She was actually like a patriot and like a CIA operative who pretty much was metahuman and got operated on, and they tried to make her property, and she realized like all of it was being done off the book, and so she pretty much escaped. And like the Blacklist, she went into business for like, you ever watch that show back in the day?
Yeah.
She like goes into business for herself, and she's not necessarily evil, but she sure as hell isn't good. And you know, kind of like a Baroness GI Joe type. And she pretty much comes to them going, "Hey, you guys got to clear my name because I just pulled a heist robbing the supervillain organization and with 5 other villains, and now they think I robbed them. And here's the thing, I didn't." And she happens to be Killer Whale's ex. So shit's a little intense.
Personal.
Yeah. And that's the plot, is the three of them trying to stumble their way into figuring out, like, who's dumb enough to think they could rob, the
Oh
most
man.
dangerous people in the world, and who's even shittier to then rob the people who rob the most dangerous people in the world.
Nice. It's a superhero thing, but it's also like a crime drama thing, like a procedural show kind of thing mixed with in the cyberpunk world.
Yep. And it kind of takes you through the superheroes and the supervillains while being deeply personal, because they got to go to both ends of this. They got to go to both sides of it. They got to keep her clear from being arrested and found. They got to, keep everyone on both sides from killing her, and they, uncover a lot. That I have great characters.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna give me. Oh man, it's gonna give me. I don't know, David. David didn't want to pass on it, so yeah, this is more stuff to you give me to think about. But I mean, all great stuff.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Is it me or is it you? I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's me. Uh-oh. It says we're still live. Well, go look everyone up online here. Let's see. Oh, God. I am so jet lagged right now. Ugh. Oh, I guess it might just be me. Oh, no. Game over. It's close.
I think it dropped off. Must be having bad internet connection. I guess we're gonna have to stop this. I don't know how to bring Matt back on. Wait a second. Here we go. He was coming in.
Yeah, it dropped me eventually.
Oh, there you go. Okay, got it. I'm having a bad internet connection over here. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out if it was me or you, and then I
think
was like, oh no, and my freaking iPad died, so I was like trying to pull the stream back up to figure out like if it was me or you, and then I went. Apparently, there's another Ben Herrera with a live stream going.
Really?
So, yeah, there's like just ended. So I was like, wait, that's not us. And then I was like, oh wait, here you are. Let me get back in there.
Okay, I think it was me. I'm pretty sure because it been having trouble internet connection problems over here lately. So, anyways, sorry about that. Glad we're back on. But yeah, what I was saying is, this is a tough decision because such a pretty cool world. Either story that you created, either one from the very start, relentless, or one later on that is talking about a hero that was a hero that's doing his best to start his life over again and to do better.
Yeah.
Who befriends a villain, a super villain, who's trying to save a villain chick, girl, whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have talks about this soon, especially after you just sent me the.
I'll send you the script for Undeniable. You can read it.
Please, please do that.
Think. Yeah.
Please do that. And that's the one that you said is ready to go, right?
Yeah. Oh God, of course. I just knocked that. I'm a freaking klutz today, man. Yeah, here, give me 2 seconds. I'll send that one. I'll send you the World Bible for that and that one, which has a bunch of characters from the other one in it.
And you're gonna need both of those need concept designs, right? Or have you already done the concept designs?
A bunch of the concept designs for Undeniable are done. I haven't there's a few characters I just haven't nailed down, but Yeah, like you've seen. I'll show you some of what I got in a sec.
Yeah. You sent me a few already, but
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I cannot be.
but anyways, on that note, I better be going now. It's getting pretty late over here.
Oh yeah, you're in
In
those.
Sofia, Macedonia.
Yeah.
6 hours ahead. 6 hours ahead of you. So
Yeah,
you've got the good. When is the blizzard supposed to arrive?
it's already started. Like when I
Oh man.
when I pretty much got done with everything, we were at the supermarket when you were like, I'm gonna drop the link. We were literally stocking up with stuff. It was like freezing rain and it was turning to snow already. And like as we were driving, it's like, oh, it's like got to freezing and it's gotten another degree lower.
Oh man. Well, I was gonna say enjoy the rest of your day, but just survive the rest of the day. These guys do great over there. So
Yeah, we'll get there.
but anyways, thanks Matt for coming on. I really appreciate you, especially coming. Rosario was supposed to be on tonight, but again, he wasn't ever able to fix his internet connection. I guess they're doing some repairs over there. But anyways, thank you for you coming on because it was again awesome to talk with you about all this stuff.
I would have loved to have picked his brain, man. Your art for Robo Tomo.
Yeah, heavy Atomo.
Heavy Atomo. Looks great, honestly. It's so good.
Thank you. We'll come back on next week because probably next week we'll do what we were going to do tonight.
Yeah.
So please come back next week and we could all talk about that. That's what I want. So he wanted to. I was having him share all that stuff again. Anyway, get more into the story and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as I'm not destroyed, I'll be around.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, to have on. But again, thanks for coming again tonight. You guys have a great day. Survive the day over there. Yeah. Stay warm. And
my wife's bundled up. She has like 4 blankets on my couch. All right.
All right, dude.
More enough. Have a good night.
You too, dude. And everybody out there, have a great time. And hopefully catch you next weekend. Ciao.